What really happens when we die? Is it just the end of brain function? Or could there be more beyond? In a world where science meets spirituality, this video takes you on a powerful, eye-opening journey through the final moments of life. If you've ever wondered what lies beyond, this is the one video you can't afford to miss. Have you ever stopped to wonder what truly happens in the moments after we die? Is it just the end of our physical body? Or is there something more that science has yet to fully understand? In this thought-provoking video, Cosmic Axis takes you on a journey through the scientific breakdown of death and the surprising ways it intersects with spirituality, consciousness, and the mystery of what may come next. If this topic moves you or sparks curiosity, please like, share, and subscribe to Cosmic Axis for more deeply insightful content that bridges science and soul. In the final moments of life, the human body begins a quiet and complex shutdown that science has come to understand with increasing clarity. As the heart weakens, its rhythm becomes irregular and then finally stops. Blood flow slows, then halts entirely, depriving the organs of oxygen. Breathing grows shallow, spaced out by long pauses, until it too ceases. To the outside observer, it may seem peaceful, just a gradual fading, but inside the body, an intricate biological process is unfolding. One of the most fascinating aspects of death is what happens in the brain. Even after the heart stops, brain cells don't die instantly. For several minutes, electrical activity can still be detected. Some scientists believe the brain may experience a final surge of energy, a kind of last flicker of consciousness. Though what a person experiences in those moments remains uncertain. In some studies, patients who were briefly revived after clinical death have reported vivid sensations, including bright lights, feelings of peace, or seeing loved ones. Whether these are real or simply the brain's chemical response to trauma is still a matter of debate. In American hospitals and hospice centers, death is treated with a mix of clinical precision and emotional care. Doctors monitor vitals until there is no measurable sign of life, while families often gather, holding the hands of their loved ones. In that moment, science and humanity meet. Data on a monitor telling one story, and the emotions in the room telling another. For many Americans, understanding what happens to the body is not just a medical question. It's a way to process grief, prepare for loss, and find meaning in one of life's most certain events. In clinical death occurs at the moment when the heart stops beating and blood no longer circulates through the body. At this stage, breathing ceases and vital signs become undetectable, which is why, in hospitals, time of death is often recorded at this point. However, biological death is a more gradual process. It refers to the irreversible breakdown of cells and tissues due to the lack of oxygen. In between these two stages lies a mysterious window, sometimes lasting minutes, where revival may still be possible, blurring the line between life and death.
This distinction holds profound importance, not just medically, but socially and ethically. In emergency rooms across America, doctors and paramedics use advanced techniques like CPR, defibrillation, and hypothermia therapy to extend this window, trying to reverse clinical death before biological death sets in. Psychologist Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, known for her work on death and dying, emphasized that how we define death shapes not only how we treat patients, but how we grieve, say goodbye, and even understand the soul. In modern American society, where science and spirituality often coexist, this difference raises deeply personal questions. If the heart has stopped, but the brain is still flickering, is the person truly gone? Religious traditions vary in their answers. In Judaism and Islam, biological signs such as brain death may mark the end of life, while in some Christian and Hindu beliefs, the soul's departure is less tied to physical indicators. Families struggle with these questions at the bedside, where faith, science, and love intersect. Understanding this layered definition of death is not merely academic. It influences organ donation policies, end-of-life decisions, and our very sense of human dignity. In an era of ventilators, life support machines, and artificial consciousness, knowing where clinical death ends and biological death begins helps us navigate one of the most morally delicate frontiers of modern life. Yet just as the body slows, the brain may still whisper its final words. Studies using EEG machines have shown that in the seconds and sometimes minutes after the heart stops, the brain can exhibit bursts of activity. This has been observed in both animals and humans, leading some neuroscientists to wonder if a final wave of consciousness might pass through the mind like a spark fading into the night. These findings, while still limited, challenge the long-held belief that consciousness ends immediately with cardiac arrest. In a study published in 2023, researchers found measurable gamma wave activity often associated with heightened awareness moments after death in 2 patients. While it's impossible to determine what those individuals experienced, the patterns resembled those seen during memory recall and dreaming. Psychologist Dr. Bruce Grayson, who has spent decades studying near-death experiences, suggested consciousness may not be entirely dependent on brain function, at least not in the way we've assumed. His work, though controversial, resonates with many Americans who blend scientific curiosity with spiritual openness. Culturally, the American view of death is shaped not just by medicine, but by movies, memoirs, and moments shared in hospice rooms. Families often recount stories of a dying loved one suddenly opening their eyes, uttering a final phrase, or seeming momentarily alert, events that science struggles to fully explain. In religious circles, especially among Christians and spiritual seekers, these final moments are sometimes interpreted as glimpses of the soul preparing to depart, a brief window where heaven seems close enough to touch. In a time when artificial intelligence and neuroscience push the boundaries of what we know about the mind, the question of whether consciousness truly ends with death is more relevant than ever. It invites not just scientific investigation, but personal reflection, reminding us that the brain's final flicker may carry meaning beyond measure. Among the most intriguing aspects of dying are near-death experiences, those vivid, often transformative moments reported by individuals who were clinically dead or close to death, but later revived. Accounts often include feelings of floating outside the body, moving through a tunnel, seeing a bright, comforting light, or encountering deceased loved ones.
While such descriptions may sound spiritual or symbolic, they are consistent across cultures and ages, suggesting there may be a shared neurological or psychological foundation beneath them. In American hospitals, particularly in cardiac units, these stories are not rare. Patients brought back from cardiac arrest have described out-of-body experiences that align precisely with what was happening in the room, details they could not have known unless they were conscious. Yet they were medically considered unconscious at the time. This phenomenon has led researchers like Dr. Sam Perry of NYU Langone to study NDEs under controlled conditions, using hidden visual targets in operating rooms to test whether awareness can occur without brain function. While the data remains inconclusive, it challenges conventional understanding of consciousness. From a psychological perspective, some experts argue that these experiences may result from the brain's response to trauma, oxygen deprivation, or a flood of endorphins. Dr. Kevin Nelson, a neurologist at the University of Kentucky, suggests that near-death experiences may be related to REM sleep intrusion into wakefulness, a defense mechanism of the brain during extreme stress. Still, he acknowledges that the consistency and emotional depth of these reports cannot be dismissed lightly. Religious and spiritual communities across the U.S. interpret NDEs in light of their faith traditions. Many Christians see them as divine glimpses of the afterlife, while others view them as moments of spiritual awakening. In modern American society, where science is often trusted but spiritual longing remains strong, these experiences serve as a rare point of intersection, inviting both skepticism and hope. Some neuroscientists argue that consciousness is simply the result of complex interactions between neurons, a byproduct of the brain's architecture. From this perspective, when the brain shuts down, so too does consciousness, completely and forever. But even among experts, this explanation feels incomplete. Dr. Christoph Koch, a leading figure in neuroscience, once said, "We have detailed knowledge about neurons, yet we still don't understand how the brain produces subjective experience." That mystery has kept the question alive: does consciousness truly vanish, or does it transcend physical form? In American society, where scientific rationalism coexists with deeply rooted spiritual traditions, this question resonates on multiple levels. Many people, including those who don't identify as religious, report sensing the presence of a deceased loved one, especially in the days or weeks following death, whether psychological comfort or something more. Such experiences have a meaningful emotional and social impact. From a clinical standpoint, psychologists like Dr. Robert Niemeyer suggest these post-loss perceptions may be part of the brain's way of coping with grief, reinforcing emotional bonds that death cannot entirely sever. Meanwhile, in the academic world, fields like quantum cognition and integrated information theory are exploring whether consciousness could be a fundamental part of the universe, something that doesn't arise from matter, but exists alongside it, much like gravity or time. This idea, once fringe, is gaining attention as scientists grapple with phenomena that don't fit traditional models. Religiously, many Americans turn to a concept found in Christianity, Judaism, and even Native American spirituality, that the soul is not bound by the body and may continue in a realm we cannot yet perceive.
Rather than choosing between science or belief, modern discourse is shifting toward integration, recognizing that the question of consciousness after death may never be fully answered in a lab, but must still be asked with humility, imagination, and care. In recent years, some scientists and philosophers have begun exploring whether quantum physics might offer clues to what happens after death, an idea that once belonged solely to metaphysical circles, but now finds space in academic debate. At the center of this inquiry is the strange, non-intuitive world of quantum mechanics, where particles can exist in multiple states at once and remain connected across vast distances through what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. These principles have led to theories suggesting that consciousness may not be strictly bound to the physical brain, and that it could, in some unknown form, persist or transfer when the body dies. One such idea is the many worlds interpretation, which posits that every choice or event creates branching timelines in parallel realities. If true, could death in one timeline be merely a transition in another? While highly speculative, this theory has captured the imagination of both scientists and laypeople, especially in a culture like America's, where science fiction, faith, and philosophy often intertwine. Dr. Stuart Hameroff and physicist Sir Roger Penrose have even proposed that consciousness may reside in microtubules within brain cells, interacting with the quantum field, meaning the mind could be more than the sum of its neural parts. Socially, these theories offer comfort in a society that values scientific evidence, but also yearns for existential meaning. For many Americans, especially younger generations, raised on both technological advancement and spiritual openness, the idea that science might support the existence of an afterlife is not just fascinating, it's deeply reassuring. Psychologist Dr. Lisa Miller, known for her work on spirituality and mental health, suggests belief in continuity beyond death, even when framed in scientific language, can foster resilience and emotional well-being. Religious communities, too, are increasingly open to integrating quantum ideas into their understanding of the soul, seeing them not as threats to faith, but as tools to deepen it. What remains undeniable is that even after physical death, something of the self lingers. From a scientific standpoint, the law of conservation of energy tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. While this principle doesn't directly confirm an afterlife, it raises compelling questions. If our bodies release energy in the form of heat and chemical change, where does the essence of our thoughts, emotions, and memories go? Some neuroscientists argue that once the brain ceases function, the information it held dissolves. Yet others, like physicist Paul Davies, suggest that information, like energy, might be preserved in the fabric of the universe in ways we do not yet understand. Socially and culturally, Americans have developed new forms of digital immortality. Social media accounts, cloud-stored photos, voice recordings, and even AI-generated avatars mean a person's personality and presence can persist online long after death. Psychologists like Dr. Sherry Turkle argue that these digital traces offer comfort to the bereaved, providing a kind of ongoing relationship that blurs the boundary between memory and presence. This phenomenon is increasingly common with families interacting with their loved ones' digital profiles on anniversaries or in moments of grief, a modern ritual that reflects the human need for continuity.
Religious traditions also speak to this enduring aspect of the self. In Christianity, it is believed that the soul carries forward, while in Buddhism, energy and consciousness are said to be recycled through rebirth. Even secular Americans, guided by ethics rather than doctrine, often speak of living on through acts of kindness, community impact, or generational influence. Dr. Robert J. Lifton called this symbolic immortality, the idea that our lives gain meaning through what we leave behind, whether in children, causes, or memory. In a society shaped by both progress and loss, the modern American understanding of death now includes not only what ends, but what continues in new and meaningful forms. And so, in this quiet meeting place between science and spirituality, we begin to understand that the question of what comes after death may never have a single universal answer, and perhaps it isn't meant to. In American culture, where the boundaries between faith and reason have become more flexible, more personal, and more compassionate, there is space for both the data-driven mind and the searching heart. Modern science helps us understand the physical processes of dying, offering clarity and structure. Spirituality, on the other hand, offers meaning, whether through religious tradition, personal belief, or the quiet hope that love and connection might somehow transcend the grave. Together, they don't cancel each other out. They form a fuller picture of what it means to live, to lose, and to wonder. Maybe the truth isn't about proving what lies beyond, but about how the mystery itself teaches us to live more fully, love more deeply, and cherish the time we have. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If this video gave you something to think about, or maybe even something to feel, we invite you to like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to the channel for more thoughtful explorations at the edge of science, life, and the human soul.